Welcome back to another episode of Debt Collection 101 on Arbite U. In case you don't know who we are Arbite, and we make outbound communication software that makes collection agencies more profitable. I'm Brittany, and we have Ashley here, and today we are talking about how to secure debt using sales techniques. And we'll kind of get into it. So we have a lot of agencies that tend to share with us that they're struggling to find debt. So we are lucky enough to have the VP of Sales of Williams and Rush, who has a background in sales. We have Caleb Odom, and he lives and breathes this topic. So we're excited to learn how agencies can find an overlap between sales and debt collection so they can be successful, they can secure the debt and achieve those high liquidation rates. So before we get into it, if you want to introduce yourself, give us your background and how you found Sean and his agency.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone listening or watching. I'm Caleb. I'm our VP for Sales. I'm Director for New Business over at Williams Rush and Associates. I background in sales. I actually did data analytics for a long time. I'm a massive data nerd. I joined sales because I got told I have a very punchable face. Basically, I look like you look untrustworthy. I'm just kidding. But I got into sales essentially because a company was being transitioned, and I got asked to go into sales. I said no, and they said, "Well, what would it take?" I said, "Double my pay," and they said, "Okay." So sales it was, and so I just started that way, and then I found out I had a massive passion for it. I used to think it was the industries and verticals I was in, like for collections. I had this conversation with Emily briefly, as I had mentioned. It's like, "What's your passion for collections?" I was like, "I have none. I have passion for sales," and I was like, "And it's fluid in every vertical you sell in." I was like, "Whether so." I just found out. It took a long time to realize I just love sales, and so I ran into Sean. I was right as the pandemic started. So I went in, I met with them, and the saying that always stuck with me since I was really young is I heard you always quit managers, you don't quit companies. And so working for someone that you appreciate as a person, like ideologically, it doesn't matter what they think. Is if you think they're a good person, you want to help them succeed, you want to be on that team. And so I talked to Sean, met with Sean. We set expectations. I obviously pitched him too on what I wanted for it, and we both got exactly what we wanted. I've been there over 2 years, like 2 years and a few months now.
Awesome. Yes, as we were talking before we started filming, we love Sean, and he definitely has talked so highly of you. So I'm glad you guys crossed paths.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This would be a terrible way to find out it was the opposite. You're
I
like,
know.
"Oh yeah, Sean is not a fan of you." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Actually, not the fit.
Yeah.
No, of course not. So since you kind of have a outlook on different industries, can you just talk about the overlap that you experience between software as a service sales and the debt collection industry?
The big bleed over is they're night and day different as far as like product versus service, and a lot of it, which are polar opposites. However, your sales ability, if you're good at one, you will be good at the other. Essentially, there's the bleed over for how you need for sales mentality is going to be the exact same. Your approach for how you're going to hunt your clients, the kind of clients you want, and then especially how it depends on how you did in SaaS. For ours is very specified. Is I do scalpel approach. I don't shotgun spray and pray, see what sticks kind of thing, like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like it doesn't, you could do it. A broken clock is right twice a day, but I mean, you want to get the exact clients that you want for a very good reason. So the big thing there, I would say, is figuring out what purpose you're going to serve. So it's the same thing as on every call is, why did you call them? Like, if we ever have to review calls, the first thing I have in my head when I'm listening to them is like, well, why did you call them? Because if you're trying to collect the money, was that your goal? Because it sounded like you're trying to make a friend. I was like, friendships don't pay bills. I was like, so you have to have your purpose on every single call, whether it's collections or sales. Is I'm on this meeting right now, and it's like it grants me exposure and everything, but at the same time, it's like I love sales, so I like talking about it. So my purpose is I'm here because I like talking about what I do. So the big bleed over on there, I would say, is you can use the same research tools for who you're looking up and how you're doing it, because there's a plethora of data sources that actually will give you the direct contacts for who you're wanting. And then your sales pitch needs to it can mirror your SaaS side of it, but it very much needs to be, if you're product driven, the big difference I would say is you need to focus on why someone should use your service, because product is way more objective. My product is better than this product because XYZ, and you can make that case very easily. Now, service based is going to be I will pitch against another service, and I can say all these things, but it's going to be very biased, and it's going to sound biased. So you have to make a supporting argument as to why you're a good fit, and that's going to be the big difference on when you level up in sales of like where you are, not like roles, but as far as how good you are. Some people just have a natural act of being able to get them to pitch to you, which is going to be your best success rate usually.
Nice.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
No, it's
that's
good
great.
to know. I'm not like super familiar with the sales process in the debt collection industry, but it seems very similar, which is great. I was in sales at Arbite for a long time, so yeah, I get that.
Now, I know we talked about the overlap. What do you think is missing when it comes to typical debt collection training or onboarding that could be helpful for agents for better interactions or negotiations in their day-to-day calls?
Yeah, so this is where the big disconnect is, I think. So whether it's this vertical for everyone, if anyone's listening, you guys, like most people in debt, once they're in debt, they stay in debt. It's the same in almost, just so everyone's aware, sales is the thing that moves between everything for the most part. There's other parts that do, but if you're in a vertical, you usually stay in a vertical for the most part. That's how people do, because they're like, hey, I'm really knowledgeable in this, I stay in this. The one thing I would say, there's a lot of things that, and I don't want to, and not to sound rude or negative, it's archaic, is the sales mentality on a lot of this, is they do yes leading questions or something like that. It's like, do you want to do this? Like if you do that, that's sales 101. Like you are so far behind on what you need to do. You have to do value statements. So essentially figuring out, it's practice. You need to find good salesmen and listen to them, and don't take everything, but Frankenstein yourself into the best version of yourself. Because I was very fortunate when I started in sales. I'm a data nerd, so I knew I should take pieces of everything, but I didn't know what would be a good fit for me. So I took there's a guy I worked with named James Raven, incredible at certain things. So I picked a little piece of that. Steve Defterios. So like, sorry, I'm name dropping all of them too. They're great salesmen. Damon Samuel. Like I was like, I picked little pieces of all the people that I worked with, and I was like, if all of them mashed together perfectly, that would be the best salesman in my eyes. And so what I wanted to do was try to do that. The one thing I would say is, for the training process, is there's really easy solutions that I think a lot of salespeople can level up from, because I no ego attached. I don't think I've lost a sales pitch when being in a higher fee percentage. I can't remember ever losing, because it's not a percentage. If you pitch your percentage, you're just a percentage. You need to pitch your value as to why someone should work for you. So there's easy processes, whether it's like Sandler training for sales, which is a good starting, and they have expert ones. But I would say figuring out the best sales process that you see and just picking pieces of it. But the problem is people try to copy and paste the whole thing, and it's not as natural. I'm overly assertive. My wife is the exact opposite. Whenever I say something and I was like, yeah, you could say this, and it would not sound natural for her to sound that assertive, and vice versa. When I sound passive, I sound very passive aggressive. It's not good. I sound very rude, and I'm like, I should tone that down. But
Yeah.
hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, kind of going off of that really quick. Is there like any tools or like training websites or anything that you use or used in the past that you could maybe mention for someone
Yeah, of course.
watching that they could go to?
Yeah, so the same way that people do like TLO or whatever, however they like skip trace, the sales side of it has, I've used a few different tools. The one I use, because I think it's the best bang for your buck, Zoom Info was the one that I use, because I can get direct contact lines. Not sponsored. You should sponsor me, Zoom Info. But that's the one I use. Is I can look up any company, and I'll say like, I want the director of collections for this vertical. Granted, that title is not that. By the way, it goes to art museums more than anything, because their director of collections is like the main title. So be aware,
Yeah.
know what you're typing in. But you can kind of piece up who you're going to call that day, so that way you know what you want to talk about. And the one thing I would also say is, when you're using tools like that, get different lists and don't just say, I want everyone that works in finance or blah, blah, blah. Do one vertical specific and like export them individually or whatever it is. Because when I call banks, I need to have a banking pitch. I can do it because I've done it a long time where I can jump from I'm calling this person real quick. I already have it listed and I'm like, okay, I need to pitch like we're really good at pitching to banks or credit unions. And the next one I'm like, okay, trucking or transportation. And then the next one, utilities. Like you need to, if you can, have a focus of like this hour I'm going to call these ones. So that way your pitch doesn't wax and wane from one to the other. It sounds like simple, but getting caught like with your tongue in your throat and you're like you lose your whole purpose of why you called. And if someone notices that on the phone, I wouldn't give them the time of day. I don't expect them to give me the time of day. So Zoom Info is the one that I use. There are a lot out there though, but something with direct contact lines, which is it's pretty easy to find. There's a lot of services that do it now, but a good salesman, you essentially need a phone and some way to get a hold of the people. Outside of that, there's not a lot of tools we need.
Yeah. Yeah, I've used Zoom Info, so I can definitely second that. I loved it. It was super easy to use too. So yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
I know you don't want to probably give away all your secrets, but just a little sneak peek. Can you walk us through your typical process for finding debt or new clients to secure new debt for your collectors at Williams and Rush?
Of course. And there's no secrets. I'm an open book on it because I took it from better salesmen.
Yeah,
Like
that's
so
true.
so I will not get better. It's like steel sharpens steel. If someone gets really good at this and I pitch against them, I would like to think I'd win, but if I don't, I'll just get better. So on my end is I'll figure out kind of the process of why I'm calling that person. Here's the list. Here's who I want to call. And then more importantly is whenever I'm talking to them is you can do disarming conversations, starting how you start your call off. Don't do like yes-oriented questions. If you're doing that, you're wrong. Like statistically, you're wrong. It's not a gut feeling. Data proves that you're doing it wrong. So there's weird techniques that can sound really dumb that help, like basically making yourself smile before you call. Makes it, if people on the other end of it, like there's a lot of good salesmen out there. There's way more bad ones. For every Chris Voss who's amazing, there's a Grant Cardone who has no idea how to sell, and he's a billionaire almost. And I don't know, like I guess it works for someone. But for the good advice on there, the one thing I learned is if people are smiling, like if you're smiling, you're activating 31% more of your brain while you're doing it, and you're releasing more endorphins. You're more likely to be receptive on the other end of a call or giving a call. And then any little advantage you can get. And so also the one thing I would always say is don't sell on price, sell on value. I do not care what your percentage is. I will immediately assume I'm going to be more expensive. And I'll tell them right away. They're like, well, this person quoted us at 20%. I'd be like, that's a great deal. I was like, you should go with that. Because I don't go for the no is essentially what they say in the Sandler trainings is just, you either want to know it's a good deal. You don't want to fit a square in a peg hole. If you get someone, if they pay $10, but they feel like they should have paid $5, they will get their other $5 out of you, whether it's through implementation, time frame, expectations. Like they will get the money that they think that they're owed because it's not a good partnership. So on my end is we need to pitch on our value. So the best thing to go back and forth on is get them to know if they spoke to someone else and it's a lower price, it's like, well, why are you still shopping around? And a lot of the times just be like, oh, well, I just, if it's just, I want to see other prices, it'd be like, well, it's probably not a good fit because all you care about is the fee percentage, not a collection rate. And I was like, not a building partnership, because are you going to use them this one time? Or are you going to use them in the next few years? And if, as they go through that, a lot of the times they'll pitch you as to where you should guide them. And they'll say like, oh, well, it's not, they didn't say this or like this thing. And this is what I'm really looking for. I'm like, so it seems like visibility is going to be a lot more important than just the percentage. So if I can get close to that, it's probably a better fit. And like, even though I did a yes oriented question there, but and for the most part, like they guide themselves. It's just, you have to be willing to listen and not just wait to respond, because that's the biggest crux in sales is most people just want to respond, and just, it's called spilling your candy in the lobby. You just sit there and just like, okay, they're done talking. Okay, so here's the value that we have. Like, just no, like listen to what they say, because if they chime in after you did a presentation of blah, 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 as soon as they chime in and say, this is what important, all that means is everything before that, you can just throw away. It meant nothing. They chimed in here. That means that point, focus on that because that's their value. It's not gonna be the same as in collections. It's like if they don't care what their credit score is, telling them that's going to help their credit score is not going to, that's clearly not going to be the benefit right there. And vice versa, if they'd be like, well, I need to get this off my credit, buying a house, credit is going to be important. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever stand when you make calls?
no, I'm one of the few ones. I had a raised up desk that used to do it, and I always stood. But I also have like, I was in the military. I have horribly bad plantar fasciitis. I can't stand for more than like
Oh, that makes sense.
15 minutes unless I'm walking. Walking for some reason I can tough it out. But
Yeah.
it does for people that can do it. It's great.
Mhm.
I have a gaming chair. I am a nerd, and I just kick back. And this is as fancy as I'll do on any calls. I'll be in sweats or shorts and a tank top, dialing numbers all day because people always say it's like you dress professional because we want to sell professional. I want to be comfortable when I call people, so I'm going to dress comfortable. So that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
No, and I love what you brought up too about the smiling. I feel like that's such a big impact. And I've heard you put a mirror on your desk and fix your face before you get in the call and use that smile. And I love that.
There's a real that's a real statistic, and one of the best things. I think it was actually Chris Voss that said it. If it feels unnatural for you, he's like put a pen in your mouth. I hope this is recorded so my wife can laugh at me later if you do it. It's like put a pen in your mouth and then bite down without your lips touching. Actually, I won't do it because that looks gross. But essentially, it's like it forces you to smile. It's the exact same reaction that you get, and it does, whether you want to believe it or not. It's this. The sad thing is, it's the same reason that Botox helps depression. I was like, because it naturally makes you release more endorphins. People after the Botox have less depression. Weird statistics.
I love it. Now, kind of getting a little bit more into it, do you think you can make a case for why agencies should have a separate sales function to kind of make this all work?
Oh,
Yeah.
I just want to jump into you real quick because
Yeah.
I also feel like a lot of I guess smaller agencies, not super small, but smaller agencies, there's always one person who wears like many hats also. So maybe like saying why they probably maybe shouldn't do that and like have someone specifically focusing on the sales side.
Yeah. So I was trying to think as I was thinking about this earlier is essentially the best thing you can do for smaller agencies, it's going to be different from place to place. So Sean, he never needed a salesperson. He didn't need one. They had more than enough business. And then as they're trying to expand, I was like, in either bringing more collectors, they wanted more lucrative debt. They wanted to be more selective on the debt that they have. When you want to make those transitions, you could try it without a salesperson. It could go well. But when you're looking to do it, the difference is, are you trying to bring in business and like, are you trying to pitch you or a partnership? Because end of the day is a good salesman should be able to give a benefit as to why you need to partner with this company. And so for the longevity of where you're looking to go, it's very different on like if I pitch versus a sales owner or something else. If you don't see a difference, you shouldn't hire me. Like it's the same for any salesperson. If you can't have a distinct difference as to what they bring to the table on just how the questions they ask, it's usually the questions they ask. It's gonna be the hard hitting thing. I think I mentioned before is I actually never watched this show. It's the Hot Wing Challenge thing with Sean. Is it Sean
I
Evans?
love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Sean Evans.
yeah, I don't care what to guess. I do not watch the show. I don't even like the hot wings. Milk is spicy to me. I am a wimp. However, that guy asks such good questions that every single time the people are engaged immediately. It's the same as like the best salespeople on earth. It's not the guys you probably like are thinking of. It's usually like a Joe Rogan or like a Sean Evans. It's someone that can listen and respond to what they're saying and also ask good questions. And so on the salespeople, it's called like finding the pain, essentially, is because a lot of the time, like if you're not in sales and you just are doing this like a smaller agency and you're just trying to get more business, as soon as you hear the first thing of saying like, here's what we're trying to fix, and reasonably so, you want to fix that problem for them, and it's a good partnership. Most of the time, that's a symptom of a bigger problem. that they don't want to get into yet, because you have to build that trust and the rapport. So a good salesperson should be able to, it's called surface level pain, and then be able to dig into it. Be like, well, what's the cause of that? How long has that been an issue? And be like, okay, well, what happens if you're not able to fix that over the next few years? What happens? As you ask, like, and those are simple ones for it. If they just say, well, if we can't fix it over the next few years, I'd be like, we could go under. I'd be like, so a partnership with like us being able to fix that is worth your entire business. Like they added the value for you, or like whatever X would happen. They're just giving you things. So just listen to what they say and try to be a problem solver, but don't be pushy with it. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. I got a lot of call backs yesterday. I was blessed yesterday. I did a lot of calls this week, and I got call backs on my cell nonstop. Figured out like, hey, it's not a good fit. I was like, I wish you the best of luck. And they're like, you know what? Just send me some information, because we're not looking to add more. And I was like, I don't want to. And most people, it's the same thing as they're like, perfect. All right, yeah, sounds good. Just in case you need us. I just tell them like, hey, I don't want to. I was like, I don't want to waste 5 minutes typing an email that you're not going to read. It's totally fine. I was like, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And like, well, it could be a good fit. So they just told me it's not. They don't want to use us. They didn't need to. And they said, send me information. I tell them no, because my time's as valuable as yours. Warren Buffett only has 24 hours in a day. I only have 24 hours in a day. So your time is not more valuable. You make a lot more if you're Warren Buffett, but your time is the same. So I'm just like, I don't want to waste the time sending you things that you don't care about. And they're like, well, no, it's just like we could use it in the future. I was like, what's going to change between now and then? It's like, well, we have 3 agencies. And like, okay, if you have 3 kids, you have a favorite. Which agency is doing the best? And they're like, well, it's disarming, because no one wants to say they have a favorite kid if they have 3. I have 2 cats and a dog. I don't even like one of the cats. When my wife hears this, she's gonna get mad at me. But it's the same thing. It's like, what is that one agency doing right? They're like, well, they're checking these boxes. I'm like, if I can do all that and collect more money for you, why would you wait until that time frame? And they're gonna guide themselves. So again, I know this is kind of long-winded, but if you're a smaller shop and you're able to do it without that, don't be too eager to jump on the first thing. Be okay walking away not getting a deal. That's if as soon as you're not able to, if they call your bluff and you have to go desperate mode, every salesman's done it, because when you're new, I've been guilty of it. When I was new, you get happy ears. Someone's like, yeah, I could be interested. You're like, oh, like, okay, perfect. Oh, that's great. And you just try to like rush to the end line. Like, no, there's so much more to make sure you're checking the right boxes, because the partnership needs to be mutually beneficial, not just I made a deal, I made a sale, that's great. They're going to have more debt in the future. Every company has more debt. Everyone has, like, if you're investing in anything, it's like everyone has trash and everyone has debt at some point. Like, it's going to be one of those things. It's going to produce more. So build a good partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, the more information, the better. You do not have to apologize for long-winded answers.
Okay.
We love the information. This is why we do this. So thank you.
Of course.
And then, so kind of still on the topic of like these smaller agencies and people who may not be ready to take that leap and hire someone specifically for a sales role. What are some things that they could do to implement a sales technique to improve their ability to find debt for their agency?
Yeah. So every agency, at least that I know of, that we're a small shop, but like as we're trying to grow, the idea is like we have a backbone of like what our first client was. So our first main client that brought in the majority of the business, a lot of the times pitching to something similar is going to be it's going to be great, because your companies are familiar, you have experience, leading with your strengths. So you could it's the same way. It's really easy if you're a data nerd or a video game nerd. So this analogy is going to work on 2% of the people. But if you can ever characterize these people, if you have like stat-based essentially is improving your stats of where your strengths are that are really weak. Everyone, a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, you bring them all up, you'll get better all around. Why? Like, just if it's going to be a same percentage gain, put it on where your strength is. So if you're really good in this vertical and you already have a client that's in it, lean with that. If you're going to a different vertical, you can still use them as a reference. But I would say if you jump from doing medical debt and then all of a sudden you want to do is child daycare. I'm just picking like random things. They have nothing to do with each other. So a lot of the times being able to tie along something, or if you build a good partnership, people leave companies. When they leave companies, when they go to a new one, that's how I started doing my first, like in sales when I was newer, is anytime someone left, I had a good relationship with them. So if they went to another company, they would champion me within it. They'd just be like, you should definitely use this. I was like, because I was like, I'm going to be there regardless. And I'm trying to sell things. If I can have someone that trusts that I'm going to take good care of them when they go to another company, that's a little bit of like, looking a little bit in the future. But if you're trying to get new debt, if you don't have a designated salesperson, have a focus as to what you're wanting to achieve, rather than just saying like, I want to build the business. Like, I want another $1 million. Be like that. No, that's a result of what you're wanting. What do you like? How do you get there? And a lot of the times they think that's the end goal. It's not the end goal. The end goal is I want, this is the client that I want. Go get that client. Okay. And that will result in the money that you're looking for. So for me, I had, I think it was like 10 like mega accounts. Like one time that Sean's like, oh yeah, get a whale. And when he said that, booked him. It's someone that we couldn't service. Like there's so like it was like Berkshire Hathaway. It was the first person they got a meeting with in like 20 years to do collections. And I talked to the guy for like 45 minutes. It was great. And I'm like, in the future when we grow, I would love to do business together. He's like, absolutely, because I don't want to like, well, they need like 2,000 collectors.
Yeah.
So but it's important to be able to build the bridges that you need. So even if it's not a good fit now, being good at what you did, like so on the sales side of it, or if you're just looking for new business, it may not be a need now, but it may be in the future. So just Sean did a very good job of this before I ever came on. Is if he's ever at conferences, everyone liked him. He's very good. He's very social and he's very nice. And he's like that behind the scenes too. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so you want to talk to him. You want to, like, everyone knows those people. It's like a high school party kind of thing. He walks to the room. You're just like, oh, like everyone's like, oh, he's here. Like that's who he is. And so like in doing so, a lot of the times, if you have one of those people at your company, you can survive without a salesperson. I will not talk myself out of a job though, because we can do a really good job. But find someone that is charismatic, who's likable. Go to conferences, call the right people, but most importantly, have a focus as to who you're calling, why you're calling. Because if you don't, and I call the same person, you will not get their business. That was not meant to be egotistical. Sorry, it's like you won't. If you're like, you should do business with this, I'm like, I'll charge triple and I'll get it. And not to say I'm the best, but you didn't come prepared. You're another name on the call list, and they know it. Like I called someone the other day and they just said, how many did they say? It was like 3 or 4 a day of salespeople and collections that call them. And so I pushed and I was like, is it a good fit? I get that quite a bit. Like, man, I get these every single day. Like, how'd you get my number? I'm like, well, here's how I got your number. Here's actually the intention of my call. And I was like, if you get this all the time, I don't even want to waste your time, man. I was like, it's probably not a good idea. They're like, no, go through it. And I was like, I can just call the next person. And they're like, well, just like, what is it? I was like, so you have to pivot based on who you're talking to, because whatever numbers you're beating up, everyone else is too. And so you have to distinguish yourself as being different in some way.
Nice. I was gonna ask if you thought like attending conferences was like a big thing for people to do to like find new debt as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of people or some people watching that actually don't go to those conferences like you guys do. So do you think that's like a big thing to do to get yourself out there and like meet the right people?
So I've been this vertical for just over 2 years. I've actually never been to a conference. Sean has. It's just, my rule is I don't go to Vegas. I want nothing to do with that city. That is not where the Lord wants me, kind of thing. It's just, I stay away. However, Sean goes to conferences and he does very well. And he's not a salesman. And like in the nicest way, it's obvious he's not a salesman. Like he is charismatic. But also the thing people need to understand is like going to conferences, especially as salespeople or whatever you're doing, this vertical is more niche than you know, as far as like everyone knows everyone. And people a lot of times assume, oh, that's like same here. Not to this degree. It's the same way of like as in debt. If you're in debt, the chances of if you call and talk to someone who runs another company, you guys know a dozen of the same people and have worked with some of them. So if you go to, I would say either go to the conferences, connect yourself somehow with them, just because realistically this vertical is like, if you guys are just friendly now, they may have business for you later. Some companies close and they need to make sure their business is going to a good place. Sometimes they have something they need subcontracted. It'd be like, hey, we just got, AT&T just, gave us 20,000 accounts. We can't handle it. I was like, well, you need to make sure you hit the quota, right? Be like, yeah, well, I was like, subcontract. I'm like, there's always something. So there's, you don't go into it expect like trying to like just create value for yourself, because you want to be genuine, you want to be nice and help those people, but in doing so, if it can also benefit you, that's even better. So going in there, and conferences I would say is very important, but most importantly is just in this vertical, meet everyone, be very kind. Anyone that's watching, I will accept you on LinkedIn. So as it's one of those, it doesn't hurt to grow your base in this vertical very specifically. And I worked in real estate, which is like one of the most niche things ever. Like it didn't matter how, real estate's massive, because look outside, all of it's owned by something, and most people know each other. Debt's even more tight knit.
Yeah. You should do consulting. Do you do consulting?
I can. I've done very light work of it before, but specifically I've done it for, it was for real estate, but
Gotcha.
not in sales. But if anyone, hey, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
I
I
work
was
at
gonna
Williams
say.
Russian Associates. Call Sean. He gives a thumbs up, I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, I feel like you would have really good insight if anyone wanted to reach out to you, at least not everything, obviously, you got to keep some stuff to yourself, but I think you would really be able to help some people, especially the smaller agencies who just aren't ready to make that jump to go just a specific salesperson.
I'll do one better on there. Is like, I won't even charge for consulting. If someone has questions, if you're a smaller agency, we're a smaller agency. Call me. If you need help getting business on there, let's land an account that both of us couldn't work together. I'll pitch it as like, it does nothing but help both of us. End of the day is like, my job is to make sure WRA has as much debt as they need. To the degree when I started, it's like, can you bring, it's $60,000 rather than like 4.2 million right away. So it's like, tone it down. Like we need to scale as we do it. Like same thing as like smaller agencies. You have there is it's a good problem to have, but you can't land massive accounts that you could service as well as you can the smaller, because you want to make sure you're doing a good job, because you burn that bridge once, they're not going to come back to you.
Yeah.
So as a smaller agency, if you have questions, you need help, yeah, I don't charge on any of that. I'm happy to help, because it does nothing. Same thing as I was saying, is like for the conferences, it does nothing but help me in the long run. I don't need to get paid or anything. If someone else is doing good, all about karma. I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. I hope people watching reach out if they need to. But one last time, I'll just give your name and the company. Caleb Odom with Williams Russian Associates. Find him on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, reach out to him, reach out to us, anything we can do to help. That's all the questions we have for you today. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. It was a really great conversation, and hopefully our watchers learned something.